What if God had an immense, incredible, loving plan which had been in the making for almost 60 years to save man from himself and from his actions? Actions which were slowly leading humanity inexorably towards self-destruction. What if God had a divine plan which had to come into fruition exactly in the year 2020 if it were to ever be fully understood by man? What if God had to wait until human beings were connected all over the world and were able to see clearly from the chaos, the sickness, and the incoherency all around them that man was lost? What if God had to wait until people were able to see and to reflect upon the fact that not even a worldwide health crisis would lead human beings to push past all the useless rhetoric and take concrete action to evolve, nor would the economic crisis of biblical proportions which followed be a catalyst for any real definitive change? In this loving plan, what if God had to wait for man to comprehend that basically no crisis would ever lead man to go past his very well-hidden penchant for passivity and push him to finally take responsibility for his actions and for the results of those actions? What if God had an original plan for man, a plan which had always been hidden from man by other men? What if God had always had messages for man which the human brain had never been able to understand, conceive, and assimilate? What if God had vital information for man which people just did not want to know and refused knowing at any cost? What if God had waited until the year 2020 to once again give man this vital information necessary for the survival of humanity, along with a roadmap on why and how to assimilate his directives, God being fully aware of man's difficulties in comprehending his perfect language? What if man's history of continuous suffering had created such an insensitivity to emotional and physical pain to the incredible extent that man would only be willing to listen to God's true will only after humanity had exhausted all other possibilities and all of its palliative strategies? What if this pivotal moment were to come about during the year 2020 and God's truth was contained in this book? I finished writing this book, God is Loving You, on December 20th, 2019. And I was so happy and satisfied because I had finally put on paper God's incredible loving plan for man. I can remember sighing from relief and thinking, okay, this part is over. And hearing God immediately say to me, now stop, don't go any further. Wait, watch, and observe what is about to happen. As always, I said, I obey, and I waited for further instructions. I waited to see what God had in store for me and what would be the next part of his plan. As the year 2020 unfolded, I discovered that everything I had uncovered about human behavior, which I'm about to share with you, seemed like it was now being put under an enormous magnifying glass, and that all the information in this book would be even easier for people to comprehend. Unfortunately, easier to comprehend does not mean that any real change would be inevitable. No. For God's plan to be understood and to be put into action, God had to wait until man had suffered so much that he would finally be willing to listen. Because God has always known that the driving force behind human motivations here on earth was not love, but fear, suffering, and pain. God also knew that this was not man's true nature, but just another example of man who had lost his way. This book is one of the many pieces in God's plan to put man back onto his true path, a path which was never meant to be a path of pain, fear, sickness, and suffering. God's original path for man was one of love. This is a book on love and a book of love. God wants you to understand His love so that you can comprehend your life and everything which is going on around you in your world today. But God had to wait until people were truly ready to listen and to understand. God is loving you. The release date for this book is December 20th, 2020. It is truly surreal for me to witness everything which I had said was going to happen and which I tried so hard to warn people about for many years come to pass with all the devastating effects I had envisioned. Unfortunately, I also know what is coming next and why it will happen. And I know that what we are now experiencing in the world today is just the beginning of this worldwide catastrophe. I hope this book will help all those who choose to read it to understand that our hope, our power, and our solution lies within each one of us. This book will be available on my YouTube channel from December 20th. Stay safe.